Welcome to Portsalon Beach. Now, around the world you get a lot of different beaches that are supposed to be some of the world's best, but in Donegal we have 90 miles of beach. To put this in perspective, this is Ballymostocker Strand. This is a mile long, and this beach is one of the few places in Donegal you can get a really good look at one of geography's most interesting features, which is a rift valley. I'm standing on the beach at the minute, which is left over from the last ice age. This beach wasn't eroded off the nearby rocks. This was actually brought here through glaciers and dumped here before the glacier melted off into what's now the mouth of Loch Swilly. This rift valley that we're standing on is an example of one where the rocks in the centre of the rift valley have done this. They've fallen away down, in this instance here, almost 400 metres, so that you're left with rock that on the beach is young rock next to extremely old rock down the far end of the beach. As the camera pans round here now, at the bottom of the beach you've got evidence of volcanic activity with a huge lump of basalt forming the base rock in this mountain next to me here. If you look up the mountain, you've got quartzite with veins of quartz interspersed in through it that is actually much older than this stuff that we're standing on the beach here. Now this is a metamorphosed sandstone that we're standing next to right now. We've also got some pyroclastic flows left over from ancient volcanoes that used to form an archipelago at a time when Donegal was actually at the bottom of a tropical ocean. You've got all of this in a half a mile between where we're standing and the top of that hill over there. It's truly amazing to see that in such a short space. We don't have to get into a Land Rover and drive for 6 hours to see one bit of it and then drive for 6 hours in the opposite direction to see the next. I can trip over it here and then fall into it over there. There's also some sea caves here left over from faults that have been exploited by the ocean, pushing apart the rock during storms to create some small caves over there. We'll show you some pictures of those, some stills. There's a lot of mineralization going on because of the volcanic activity as well, and in the basalt cliffs down the bottom here we've got beautiful examples of pyrite crystals, still extant, even though they've been bashed by Atlantic waves for thousands of years now at this stage, about 12,000 years to be precise. They're still in over there, still almost as good as the day they were first exposed out of the rock. The huge lump of quartzite caprock on top of the mountain over here is part of the Donegal quartzites that used to be the beach of an ancient ocean almost 200 million years ago. Now this ocean closed up in a very old mountain building process, much older than the ones we've been talking about previously in the videos, to produce a separate mountain range that's now almost completely eroded away. These quartzites and some of the granites up here are the remains of that mountain building process. The actual bed of that old ocean exists further down in the Midlands of Ireland in sandstone and limestone hills, particularly those in Leitrim and County Fermanagh. But what we've got up here is the old beach, layer upon layer, sand that accumulated over millions of years, built up very slowly over time, compacted by the mountain building process and then turned up on its edge. Some of the most iconic mountains in Donegal, Mawkish Mountain for example, and Donegal Mountain, which are in the national parks, Care, they're both made of quartzite as well. They are one side of this beach. The other side of the ocean is way down south in Ireland, in County Dublin, where we have the Sugarloaf Mountain and some of the quartzites that extend there just before you go into the Wicklow granites. They're the beach on the far side of this ancient ocean. So we're standing up here today looking down what used to be hundreds of miles of open ocean that's now all pitched up, tilted on its side and fused into the quartzites that we see on the beach here. Now I'm going to be showing you some stills as well after the video. They'll be online where you can see some of the pyroclastic flows that exist on the beach in this direction, and the other direction we'll show you some pictures of the pyrite, and if we're very lucky I might be able to find some of the ejected lava that's still actually in the pyroclastic flows. You can go and pick it up. It's pumice stone. It's one of the few places in Ireland you can still get it, and it's sitting here on the beach for all to see. So, hope you enjoy this little video. I'll talk to you again soon, and if you ever do get the chance to come here, bear in mind you don't have to go as far away as the African Rift Valley to see this geography in action. You can see it in our little island here in our little part of the northwest of Ireland. It's bloody amazing. Right, I'm going to go and find something shiny. Talk to you soon. Well, haven't discovered anything shiny, but what we did find on the beach is a wonderful example of a preserved pyroclastic flow from an ancient volcanic eruption. Now, This pyroclastic flow sits on top of the rock that's now the bottom of the Rift Valley here in Portsalon, and it's relatively young in comparison to the rocks on either side of it, in other words up and down the beach. What is amazing about this material is the way it's put together. This is an amalgamation of a lot of different types of rock that were blasted out of the side of a volcano, covered in ash, and then they flowed down the side of the volcano into water at close to the speed of sound and solidified instantly. It was incredibly hot in the pyroclastic flow, but when it hits the water, it cements everything together, fusing all the particles together. So what you've got here next to me is lumps of the original, what we call country rock, mixed in with bits of lava, like this material here, and little chips and bits and pieces that were ejected when this volcano erupted, sitting in a matrix of material that binds it all together. That matrix is volcanic ash. Now, this is an event, this is an example of an event that happens incredibly quickly. Within minutes in some cases, you have the countryside completely changed. A perfect example of this would be the Mount St. Helens eruption in the 80s in the eastern United States, which caused pyroclastic flows down the side of Mount St. Helens that destroyed vast tracts of countryside. This is what it looks like after it's hit water. Now, similar things to this would have happened in the Canary Islands, to volcanic activity before, not in living memory at the minute, but it happened here in Donegal, and you're able to sit on top of it now with your cup of tea admiring the view. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing to find one of these, just to go around and see all the different mishmash of rocks that are in it. And honestly, you could be mistaken for thinking this was a gigantic lump of modern day cement that somebody had left around after some engineering operation. But no, this is a purely natural occurrence. So, still looking for nice and shiny and sparkly things, but this is pretty damn interesting by any stretch of the imagination.